For years, the royal family has managed to keep its deepest tensions behind closed doors, but now, a quiet storm between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla has reached a boiling point, one that even King Charles can no longer ignore. What began as a private rift rooted in the past has grown into a defining moment for the future of the monarchy. In this video, we uncover the hidden truths, emotional clashes, and silent rivalries shaping the royal family's present and future. Part 1. A royal rift too big to hide. Inside the grand halls of the British monarchy, where tradition reigns and appearances are everything, a silent conflict has been simmering for decades. Princess Anne, known for her quiet strength and steadfast loyalty to royal duty, has finally reached a breaking point, and it's not with an outsider, but with Queen Camilla. This isn't about a public scandal or a media frenzy, it's deeper, more personal, and rooted in a tangled history that stretches back to the 1970s. At the heart of the issue lies a quiet love triangle that involved Anne, Camilla, and the man who would later become Camilla's first husband, Andrew Parker Bowles. For years, these personal entanglements were buried beneath royal obligations and formal smiles. But now, behind palace doors, the tension has become impossible to ignore. What once seemed like cold formality between Anne and Camilla has taken on a sharper edge. It's not open hostility, but a clash of values, history, and duty that refuses to stay hidden. Princess Anne has always embodied discipline, never one to seek attention or display emotion unnecessarily. Queen Camilla, on the other hand, has had to win her place through careful public appearances and a long uphill battle for acceptance. These differences were manageable until now. The recent ascension of King Charles to the throne has elevated Camilla's status to queen consort, forcing Anne to confront what she sees as a threat to the monarchy's core values. In a private but emotionally charged meeting, Anne's voice, always measured, always deliberate, cut through the tension with the truth many in the family had chosen to avoid. For Anne, this was never about jealousy or rivalry. It was about protecting the crown. Her words weren't cruel, but they were clear. Camilla may wear the title, but has she truly earned the crown's deepest trust? And as Charles sat between his sister and his wife, the unspoken question hung in the air. What does the future of the monarchy look like when its foundation is quietly shaking? Part 2. A tangled past with Andrew Parker Bowles. To understand the present tension between Anne and Camilla, one must look back to a complicated chapter in royal history. In the late 1960s, Princess Anne shared a genuine connection with Andrew Parker Bowles. They were close in age, spirited, and shared an understanding of the pressures that came with status. Many believed they would one day marry, but their future was quietly blocked by an immovable force, religion. Andrew, a Catholic, was deemed unsuitable under the rules governing royal marriage at the time. The Church of England forbade Anne, a Protestant, from marrying a Catholic without risking her position. So, despite their strong bond, their romance was doomed by circumstances beyond their control. While Anne moved forward with royal duty and eventually married Mark Phillips in 1973, her connection with Andrew never fully disappeared. The two remained close, and in a poignant gesture, Anne chose him as godfather to her daughter Zara. Meanwhile, Camilla Shand entered the scene with her own romantic history involving Andrew. Their relationship was off and on, marked by affection but instability. During one of their many breaks, Camilla met Charles, Anne's brother. It was a moment that would reshape the royal family's trajectory forever. By the time Camilla married Andrew in 1973, Anne had already married Mark, and Charles was away on military service. But the emotional undercurrents were strong. The man who had once captured Anne's heart was now married to the woman who would later be at the center of Charles's greatest scandal. This entanglement created more than awkwardness. It laid the groundwork for decades of strained interactions. While Anne and Camilla were never openly at odds, those who followed the royal family closely could sense a cool formality that never warmed into true kinship. Too much had been shared. Too much had gone unsaid. Part 3. Tradition versus image. Princess Anne is a symbol of the old monarchy, disciplined, dutiful, and unshaken by public opinion. Raised under the watchful eyes of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, Anne absorbed their stoic, no-nonsense approach to royal service. She never courted the spotlight and viewed her role not as a privilege, but as a responsibility. This philosophy put her at odds with Camilla from the very beginning. Camilla's path to royalty was different, less traditional, more complicated, and heavily shaped by media narratives. To Anne, that difference wasn't just a detail, it was a problem. Camilla, though from an upper-class background, didn't have the royal pedigree. Her association with Charles began while he was still expected to find a suitable bride, and her past romantic entanglements only deepened the controversy. While Anne respected personal choice, she held tight to the monarchy's structure and values. And those values, in her mind, had no room for shortcuts or scandal. Over the years, Camilla worked hard to rebuild her public image. He stepped into royal duties with increasing confidence, took on charitable work, and stood by Charles during pivotal moments. Slowly, she began earning public respect. But to Anne, respect couldn't be earned through public appearances or softened press. It had to come through tireless, behind-the-scenes dedication, the kind that didn't require applause. Anne believed that the monarchy's strength came from consistency and sacrifice. Camilla's rise, in contrast, seemed based on media favor and public charm. Even if Camilla worked hard, her entry into royal life symbolized a break in the old order, and Anne, loyal to the traditions her mother had upheld, found it difficult to fully embrace that shift. Though Anne never launched public criticisms, her measured distance said more than words. The contrast in how these two women viewed duty would define their relationship for decades to come, culminating in a quiet but powerful clash of values when Charles became king. Part 4. The Crown and the Consort. When King Charles ascended the throne, Queen Camilla officially stepped into the role she had quietly prepared for over many years. But with that honor came scrutiny, not only from the public, but from within the royal family itself. Princess Anne, whose loyalty to the crown has been steadfast since childhood, did not hide her unease. To her, the title of Queen Consort carried weight far beyond appearance. It demanded unshakable devotion, a life of service, and the ability to withstand criticism without compromise. And in Anne's eyes, Camilla hadn't yet met that standard. The tension reached a breaking point during a closed-door family meeting in early 2023. It was there that Anne, calm but firm, voiced her concern directly to Charles and Camilla. Her tone wasn't cruel, but her message was unmistakable. She believed the crown should be represented by someone who lived its values every single day. Someone who didn't just wear the title, but embodied its meaning through action. Camilla sat in silence, listening. She had spent years trying to prove her worth, enduring endless comparisons to Princess Diana, and facing waves of public disapproval. But nothing had prepared her for the sting of Anne's words. Charles, caught between his sister and his wife, tried to keep the conversation balanced, but Anne's opinion carried a special kind of weight. It was born from decades of service, discipline, and unquestioned loyalty to the crown. Her voice wasn't just that of a concerned sibling. It was the voice of legacy. For Anne, it wasn't personal, it was institutional. And though the meeting ended without dramatic fallout, the emotional impact lingered. Camilla may have gained a crown, but the respect of one of the monarchy's most devoted members still remained out of reach. Part 5. The Catherine Effect. As Queen Camilla worked to cement her role in the royal family, a new figure began to rise. Catherine, the Princess of Wales. With grace, warmth, and a grounded personality, Catherine quickly won the hearts of the public. Her marriage to Prince William in 2011 was celebrated across Britain, and her relatable background only strengthened her appeal. She wasn't born into aristocracy. She came from a loving, middle-class family, and her journey into royalty felt like a fairy tale the public wanted to believe in. While Camilla had spent decades trying to shift public perception, Catherine seemed to earn admiration almost overnight. This shift in attention created a quiet but undeniable pressure. The media painted Catherine as the new face of modern royalty, a symbol of empathy, motherhood, and quiet leadership. Even Queen Elizabeth reportedly held deep admiration for her. Camilla, meanwhile, struggled with feelings of invisibility. Her years of service, her charitable work, and her efforts to blend into the royal fabric were often overshadowed by Catherine's growing star power. Though the two women appeared friendly in public, insiders whispered of subtle tensions. Camilla, used to navigating the expectations of tradition, may have seen Catherine's rise as another sign of how much the monarchy was changing. And once again, the spotlight had shifted. First it had been Diana, now it was Catherine. Despite her crown, Camilla found herself competing in a realm where popularity often held more power than tradition. Anne, observing from her place within the royal structure, remained steady, but even she couldn't ignore how Catherine's influence was reshaping the family's dynamic. The monarchy wasn't just battling media scrutiny, it was redefining itself from the inside. And in this transformation, Camilla faced the reality that titles alone weren't enough to secure public or familial trust. Part 6. Silent tension, public smiles. Despite the emotional weight of past conflicts, Camilla and Anne have continued to appear side by side at royal engagements. Their interactions are civil, their expressions composed, but those who watch closely notice the lack of warmth. Their smiles, while present, rarely reach the eyes. Their conversations, though courteous, are brief and calculated. To the public, it may seem like a standard royal appearance, but to insiders, it's a reflection of deep, unresolved tension. Their relationship is not marred by open conflict. There are no shouting matches, no dramatic exits. Instead, it is shaped by silence, unspoken judgments, subtle glances, and an emotional distance that cannot be closed by duty alone. Anne, ever loyal to protocol, does what is expected. She will stand beside Camilla, she will perform the rituals, but she does not offer easy acceptance. This quiet coldness stems from Anne's belief in earning respect through years of hard, often thankless work. She views royal service not as a role, but as a calling, one that demands personal sacrifice and complete emotional restraint. Camilla, in contrast, has navigated her way into the monarchy through resilience, adaptation, and gradual public favor. But Anne remains unconvinced. For her, change is not a substitute for consistency. Even as the two women carry out their roles, a subtle battle plays out in posture and presence. Anne is a figure of unshakable duty. Camilla, a symbol of redefinition. Together, they represent two opposing forces within the monarchy: tradition versus transformation. And though they walk the same corridors, they do so with fundamentally different visions of Part 7, Behind the Palace Walls. While the public sees polished images and choreographed appearances, behind the palace walls, real conversations are taking place. Conversations filled with tension, judgment, and concern for the monarchy's future. One such conversation unfolded in a private royal family meeting where Princess Anne made her stance unmistakably clear. With Charles now king and Camilla crowned queen consort, Anne could no longer stay silent about her doubts. For years, she had withheld her feelings, prioritizing order and appearances. But this meeting became her moment of clarity, her chance to say what others may have only whispered. Anne, known for her directness, didn't speak to attack. She spoke to defend the values that shaped her life and defined the institution she has served for over 5 decades. Her message was unwavering. The crown demands sacrifice, and the person standing beside the monarch must embody that sacrifice completely. In her eyes, Camilla's past, no matter how softened by time, still posed a threat to the monarchy's moral center and wasn't concerned with popularity polls or newspaper headlines. Her focus was on legacy. Camilla, seated beside King Charles, listened in silence. She had spent years rebuilding her image, enduring ridicule and overcoming scandal. But nothing stung like criticism from within, especially from Anne, the one royal who never faked affection and never compromised standards. The room was heavy with unspoken history. Charles, torn between his sister's convictions and his wife's hard-won place, tried to mediate, but Anne's words were rooted in something deeper than emotion. They were built on tradition and a vision of the crown that allowed no exceptions. This meeting wasn't just a personal confrontation. It was a reckoning. The royal family was being forced to face the growing gap between its past and its present. And Anne, always quiet in her power, made sure her voice echoed far beyond the palace walls. Part 8. The Ghost of Diana. Lurking beneath much of the tension surrounding Camilla is a presence that has never truly left the royal stage. Princess Diana. Her legacy, her grace, and her tragedy continue to shape public sentiment and internal dynamics. For many, Camilla will forever be linked to the breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage. This shadow haunts every appearance, every role she steps into, and every comparison she must endure. No matter how much time has passed since Diana's tragic death in 1997, her memory lives on, especially in the hearts of the public and within the royal family itself. Anne, who had known Diana intimately and respected her public service, carries that memory with quiet loyalty. Though their relationship wasn't always close, Anne understood the toll royal life had taken on Diana. And she has not forgotten the pain that surrounded her brother's affair, the scandal that shook the monarchy to its core. For Anne, allowing Camilla to assume the position Diana once held was not just uncomfortable, it felt like rewriting history in a way that betrayed royal standards. Camilla has tried to move beyond that legacy. She has reframed her image through years of hard work, charity, and dedication. Yet Diana's name still lingers in every headline, in every subtle public reaction. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, only deepens this dynamic. Her warmth, poise, and popularity have often been compared to Diana's, creating an emotional loop that keeps the past ever present. Anne sees this loop clearly. She is not driven by sentiment, but she cannot ignore history. Diana's legacy, to her, is a reminder of what happens when royal duty is compromised for personal desire. And though Anne doesn't speak Diana's name often, the choices she makes and the opinions she holds are clearly shaped by the tragedy that forever changed the monarchy's story. Part 9. 2 Queens, 1 Monarchy. As Queen Camilla's responsibilities expand, and as she stands ever closer beside King Charles, the divide between her and Princess Anne becomes more evident. Anne continues to carry out her duties with quiet resilience, attending hundreds of engagements a year, often without media fanfare. She is the backbone of the royal family, the one who has never needed applause to validate her purpose. In contrast, Camilla's role, though filled with effort and sincerity, still walks in the long shadow of both her past and public skepticism. What makes their divide so stark is not a lack of effort from Camilla, but the sheer difference in how they approach duty. Anne was raised in the institution. She doesn't perform her role, she lives it. Camilla had to adapt to it, often reshaping herself to fit its expectations. For Anne, royal service is silent and consistent. For Camilla, it's often public and strategic. This contrast fuels an unspoken competition, not for the crown itself, but for what kind of leadership the monarchy should represent. Catherine's increasing popularity adds a new dynamic. The public sees in her a modern kind of queen-in-wait, relatable, warm, and untainted by past scandal. She bridges the old and the new and respects Catherine's devotion, even if their styles differ. But for Camilla, Catherine's natural charm may feel like yet another reminder that her place in the royal family, though official, still feels precarious. Within the palace, the air is formal but not free of judgment. Each smile, each appearance, each headline subtly shifts the balance of power and perception. And though the monarchy appears united on the surface, these two women, Anne and Camilla, symbolize the monarchy's internal tug-of-war between legacy and reinvention, between inherited duty and hard-earned acceptance. Part 10. Legacy in the Balance. As time marches forward, one thing becomes clear. The future of the monarchy is no longer built solely on titles and tradition. It now rests on perception, adaptability, and trust. Princess Anne represents the foundation, unshakable, steady, and loyal to the crown above all else. Queen Camilla represents the challenge of change, of transforming a controversial past into an accepted present. And in between them stands King Charles, trying to preserve harmony in a family that must constantly walk the line between history and modernity. Camilla's journey has not been without merit. She has remained poised in the face of criticism and has shown a commitment to royal responsibilities. Yet, Anne's continued skepticism keeps a mirror held to the institution. It reflects the idea that service must come before status, that respect cannot be inherited or demanded, only earned through tireless effort and humility. Meanwhile, Catherine's star continues to rise. She symbolizes the monarchy's next chapter, a blending of grace, relatability, and quiet strength. Her popularity is not forced. It's grown naturally, resonating with generations who seek authenticity. In this trio of royal women, each represents a different era, a different vision of what royalty means. But in the quiet spaces of palace life, where cameras are absent and formalities fall away, the emotional toll of these roles is undeniable. Camilla carries the weight of constant comparison. Anne bears the burden of duty without affection, and Catherine steps forward into a spotlight that will only grow brighter with time. Together, they form the emotional map of a monarchy at a crossroads. As the royal family navigates its future, the lessons are clear. Tradition must evolve, service must remain central, and public trust must never be taken for granted. And if Anne has taught the crown anything, it's that loyalty without compromise is the truest form of royal strength.